What's up guys, I'm Nick of CamCrunch, and in this video I'm going to give you guys 3 great lenses that you might want to purchase for your DSLR if you're just starting off. So in my last video I talked about what features and what specs you might want to look for in a camera, and so if you guys watched that video and are ready to purchase your first camera, then this video might help you choose some of the lenses or lens that you get together with your camera when you're first buying your camera. So the first lens that you might see when you're looking for a camera is the kit lens. A lot of cameras these days are bundled with the 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens. That's for most of the crop cameras that you'll see out there. And the kit lens is a great lens to start with. So if you guys are on a budget and you can only spring for that kit lens, definitely just go for that kit lens because it's a very versatile lens. It has a range that gives you a wide angle perspective all the way up to a semi-telephoto perspective, so you get to see a broad range field of views, and from there you can sort of try a lot of different things, and then you can figure out which side of the lens you like more, the wide side or the telephoto side or the sort of middle side, and from there you can determine what lens you want to add on to your kit next. So the kit lens is always a great place to start, especially when you're on a budget. But what I have today are 3 different lenses that are, I call them entry-level lenses as well, but they can definitely last you many, many years. In fact, one of the lenses here is the same type of lens that I used when I first started, and the second or the third lens that I'm going to talk about is also a lens that you can take with you whether you're staying on the same camera or even when you upgrade to another better camera. The lens you can still use when you're using that new camera. So the first lens that I want to talk about is this lens right here. This is the 18 to 135 millimeter lens. This one specifically is the Canon version with STM, which is a sort of a silent wave motor that's focused by wire, I believe. And so it makes it silent. It's good for photos. It's also great for videos, but all camera brands usually have the 18 to 135 millimeter lens. And in fact, when I was first starting off, I shot with a Nikon, a D80, and the lens that I got with it as a kit was the 18 to 135, and I used that for a few years, and it was great. And I would have kept using that lens actually if it wasn't for the fact that I upgraded cameras to a Canon camera. But I love that lens. I took it all over the world with me. I really had a good time with that lens, and I learned a lot. It was very versatile. So this is what I would call an advanced kit lens, because instead of going from 18 to 55, it goes even further than that to 18 to 135. So you can get a little bit longer. You can use it for portraits. You can use it for some sports outdoors. You can do a lot more with that extra range, and that will also teach you how that extra telephoto focal lengths look like when you're using a camera. So if you guys are into things like wildlife, outdoor sports, portraits, this lens is a little bit better than the normal kit lens for that. So this is the first lens I'm going to recommend. It's the 18 to 135 millimeter lens. And all of the equipment that I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to have links to down in the description box down below. So if you guys want to check those out, those will be down there for you guys to check out. The next lens that I would recommend is a lens that I didn't have when I was first starting off, but when I moved to the Canon camera, one of my favorite lenses to use was a wide angle zoom. The one I used was a more high quality one, but that's because this one wasn't out yet. And I was using a full frame camera, so this lens does not work on a full frame camera. But this is the 10 to 18 millimeter lens from Canon. This is a fairly new lens, and when it first came out, I already knew it was going to be a winner because it has a very nice wide angle range. So it goes from 10 to 18. So from that kit lens that you have, or even the 18 to 135, you can add this and you get an even wider end to that lens. And I personally love shooting wide angle lenses, which is why I love this lens so much. Again, it's an STM lens, so it has that silent motor from Canon. It's also quick. It's good for photos, good for videos. A lot of vloggers love using this camera together with a 70D or an 80D, or even the new SL2. If you guys have that camera or want to get that camera, this is also a great lens to add in. So it's a good way to learn how to use wide angle lenses. Again, I really love wide angle lenses. In fact, if I had to choose between these two lenses, it would be tough. Honestly, I might go for the wide angle lens, just knowing what I personally shoot. So this is another great lens. It's nice and small and compact. Here it is on a Canon Rebel T2i. This one is the Japanese version, so it says KISS S4. Nice and light, good zoom. It has that manual focus feel from, again, a fly-by-wire lens. It's a super solid lens. I highly recommend it, not just for photos, but if you guys do video, this is a great lens as well. Now the third lens I'm going to talk about is the 50mm prime lens. And there are a lot of versions of this lens and also varying versions depending on what brand you're using. But typically you always have a 1.8 version and then a 1.4 version. The 1.8 being of course the more affordable lens and the lens that I would recommend to you guys because that lens is only around $100 to $150 depending on which version you're getting. But what the 50mm lens will do is it will teach you how to use very shallow depth of field. With that extra 1.8 aperture, you can really stop your lens down, open up that aperture, and get shallow depth of field. You get nice background blur, foreground blur. And I know that's what a lot of guys that are starting off look for. They want to get that nice subject isolation, and the 50mm f1.8 is a good lens to learn how to do that. You can also isolate your subject with something like this, the 18 to 135, when you put it on the longer end. But with the 50mm, it's just a little bit easier because you have that extra aperture that you can play with. And if you get all these three lenses together, that makes a perfect kit that you can use all around. You have the 50mm lens for portrait situations or low light situations. You have the wide angle lens, and then you have the all-purpose lens. Now, this kit isn't absolutely perfect, of course, because if you want the very best, you're going to be paying thousands for lenses. But this is a kit that will not only last you for when you're starting off, but it will last you for years to come. So it's a very good kit. And again, I'll leave all the links to these items in the description box down below. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a lot from it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.